Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the One Step Better Business Podcast with Mike and with Matt. Hopefully, you all are having a great day. Today, we're going to talk about a topic that can get confusing for some people, and we see it abused a little bit, and that is classifying employees as 1099 contractors or classifying contractors as employees. Specifically, we're going to talk about that in the home healthcare space because we see that a good bit. But before we do that, Matt Patrick, fun icebreaker question of the week. What is an item that you have purchased this year that makes you happy?
I've been lucky enough to attend a couple sporting events with some family, friends, got to go to a couple games. I went to South Bend, first time ever, saw USC play Notre Dame. Went to World Series Game 3. That was a lot of fun.
Do I need to reiterate this question? What is an item that you purchased
game
this year?
tickets for the World Series.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
You went to the World Series? Really?
Game 3, Dodgers,
All right.
Blue Jays.
I didn't know that. Fun. Sorry that threw me off because now my brain is like thinking through timeline of when we're doing this and all this stuff. It's like, that's coming up, right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm going to
Okay.
the Blue Jays and
That's cool.
Dodgers Game 3. I don't know who won yet. I'll tell you that on the next episode.
Yeah. Stay tuned, right?
Yes.
That's so funny. Very good. I don't know how to tie that in, but sometimes people buy items that are home healthcare workers,
Yes.
and sometimes those workers are employees, and
Allowed to buy
sometimes
them.
they're
That's illegal in this country now.
1099s. All right, here's really what we're getting at. Common practice that we see for a variety of reasons is the treatment of a worker as an employee or as a contractor. And what a lot of times people don't know is that you don't just get to decide that. There are actual rules around how that gets decided. And it's really important that you get that correct as a home healthcare agency. And so we're going to talk through some of those things that you need to consider and what is good, what you need to. We're going to talk through some of the things that you need to consider when we're thinking through contractors versus employees. But I want to start with this. Why do you think that there is a desire to just make the decision as a business owner to say, hey, you're going to be a 1099 worker or you're going to be a W-2 employee? Like, why are people quick to jump onto that?
I think there's a couple reasons. The first one, it comes back to like convenience and easiness. I don't have to worry. There's cost, right? So the easiness factor of I can have you start. I don't have to worry about benefits. I don't have to worry about payroll taxes. I don't have to worry about, filings. It's just I don't have to worry about withholding money from your check and paying that to the IRS. It's just easy. But also, I think a lot of times they just don't know better. They don't. It was like, well, I thought I could just do that. I just thought it would be fine.
Like, I know the guy down the street is doing that.
Yeah, this guy's just paying 1099. I'll do that same thing too. And that's not the test. What your neighbor is doing is not the test.
And what is the easiest way for me to operate my business?
Yeah.
Is generally not the test of any government agency, but especially when it comes to workers. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So let's jump into some of the details here. What needs to be true for me to say that a person working for me is an employee or a 1099 contractor?
I usually start with the basic test that you always find. I think it was called the ABC test. Most states follow that as guidance, and the federal government usually follows that as guidance. But it is, what kind of control do you have over that employee? Be dictating when they show up, where they do the work, what equipment, tools, computer, whatever they're using to do that work. How much control do you have over that? So like in terms of am I telling you have to be at this place at 8:00, and then when you leave that place, you're going to go this place at 10:00, and it has to be you, then you're an employee. I have controlled when you show up. I controlled where you're going to go next, and you cannot replace you with somebody else. So that's the definition in my mind of an employee.
And
If
that's
you're
honestly where we see a lot of this misallocated in the home health space, because there are legit cases to have a 1099 worker where it's I'm going to essentially subcontract out my contract to another agency they're going to just take care of it. I don't have control over how or when or who. They're going to do it. And in those situations, that's perfectly fine. But there's also the flip side of that where we do sometimes see I hired Matt Patrick to do this specifically, and I'm going to treat Matt Patrick as a 1099, and that's not the same thing.
correct. Yeah. So like, so you need a specialist, but it's a physical therapist, or it could be an RN or whatever that role may be you're trying to fill, is, and you say, hey, um, this person needs therapy, and I have a relationship with Matt Patrick. Matt Patrick's going to be your therapist. He's going to show up at your house 8 o'clock, and then it's not Matt Patrick. Well, that's a different scenario. I didn't ask. I asked for Matt Patrick, and so I have an employee relationship with Matt Patrick at that point. Now, let's say I hired Patrick Rehab. So I'm really creative with my naming. And I have a group of therapists, and they've engaged Patrick Rehab to supply a therapist on a schedule for that patient. Probably Patrick Rehab is a vendor of the home healthcare agency, but under them, they have a therapist who should be an employee of Patrick Rehab. That makes sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it is
control and is usually the first problem.
Yeah. And within that control, the easy things to think through, am I scheduling a person to do the work, or am I scheduling that the work is getting done? And if it is, I'm scheduling a specific person to do the work, it's going to be really hard to overcome a challenge on a classification there. That's probably going to be an employee. Now, what happens if you get this wrong?
Well, couple things could potentially happen, right? First is you probably did not withhold payroll taxes from that person who is at 1099, which means you are going to be responsible if that person, let's say you're audited by the labor board, or that person made a claim and said, I should have been an employee. You're probably going to have to go to state labor board and say, hey, this person was a contractor. And they go, no, they weren't. Well, now you're running through you didn't withhold. You're going to pay their share and your share, and probably some penalties for not doing it. Second one I think about immediately is workers' comp insurance and the insurances and the benefits that they were supposed to provide as an employee. They were eligible for benefits if you were offering benefits to everybody else, but you didn't offer them benefits. Well, then there's some penalties around that. You have workers' comp insurance. Did that person get injured on the job, and are they an employee? Well, then they're covered. If they're 1099, they're probably not covered. So you have some exposure there. So it's a lot of ramifications for that being wrong. First one is usually financial, right? It's going to be a true dollars and pain in the butt to get resolved, and it's going to be more expensive than you ever imagined.
Yeah. And I think we've published some tests, some guides on how to accurately.
Yeah, we have a classification
tool. And so if you have questions like, hey, I had this person or I had these people and I'm unsure of it, reach out, and our team can kind of walk you through that stuff. But the penalties here are pretty extreme. Like this is not an area.
It's punitive.
It is meant to hurt. And this is not an area that is really worth the risk, in my opinion, because in the Department of Labor's eyes and the IRS's eyes, this is black and white. This is not a gray area. This is a very clean cut. There is a series of actual tests that they will put on you, and if you fail them, there's no argument to be had.
Yeah, I mean, other things to think about with an employee versus contractor, you're more than likely not paying overtime laws to that contractor, because you're not paying them by the hour, but they should have been subject to overtime. So therefore, you have not paid them the appropriate amount. And so, as you're thinking this stuff through, like our classification guy will walk you through the ABC test, and you can put every employee through that test and decide should this person be, or I say employee or contractor, through this test and say, yes, they qualify, or no, they don't. And if it's a no, they don't, they need to be an employee.
Yeah. And sometimes they might even have pushback on like, well, I kind of enjoy being a contractor because XYZ.
I get to deduct my blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. We don't need to go into the reasons why they enjoy being a contractor, but just know they're probably not
Do they have a
There's
business?
reasons why.
Do they have a business license? Do they work for anybody besides you?
Yeah.
Do they have the ability to replace themselves with somebody else? Those are all things that. Do they have a vendor agreement with you, or did you give them an employee contract and then called it, just wrote 1099 on it or whatever?
Yeah.
It's not a thing.
Yeah. So, don't be sloppy in this area. That's my takeaway. Don't be sloppy in this area. Make sure that you've appropriately classified your people. And I would start with this. Generally speaking, home care workers are employees. And anybody that you're currently treating as a 1099 worker, you need to put them through the test to see, is this legit? And if it's not legit, you need to have the conversation to get it flipped over. Let's at least get it right going forward. And then we can worry about cleaning up the stuff historically. So make sure that you're taking the time to get that stuff right. We don't want you getting stung by the Department of Labor and the IRS. That's no fun. So make sure that you get that stuff right. Also, we have a guide, like we mentioned, on the classification stuff. We'll try to link to that as well. But there's always, if you have questions about it, just reach out. Our team is glad to help figure that stuff out with you. So thanks for listening. I hope you have a great day. See you next time.